Well, in just 2 months, Minnesota's capital and second largest city will welcome a new mayor. Current state representative Kali Her defeated incumbent mayor Melvin Carter in St. Paul this month. And now she's making history as the first Asian American and woman to lead the city in this role. And joining me now is Mayor-elect Her. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So it's been about 2 weeks since you won the election. Walk us through what these past couple of weeks have been like for you, and has the transition process started with the current administration?
It has, and it's been a really fast 2 weeks. I mean, we immediately the day after started sort of the transition, and just many thanks to Mayor Carter and his administration for being so open to working with us and ensuring that there is a smooth transition for the city of St. Paul.
And I know you just mentioned you submitted your letter of resignation you've served in the House of Representatives since 2019.
Yeah.
And that must have been a tough moment.
It was, because I loved that job more than I've ever loved a job, and it's been the greatest honor of my life to actually do it. And so to know that I was going to be leaving my constituents in that capacity was really tough. It was really tough.
What do you think is a lesson or a practice that you learned from being a lawmaker that you'll take into now your new role as mayor?
Yeah. I think that my district taught me how to listen really well, and not just to them, but to the rest of the state. And so, you can't just think about your constituency. And, they always empowered me and allowed me to work across the state because they knew they were doing well, and it was okay for me to do that. And I think around the city, people ask me, what are you going to do? And I always tell people that it is not about what I do for one thing, that everybody in the city experiences the city in different ways. Whether you live in Rondo or Frogtown or Eastside or Mac Groveland, your experience of what the city means to you and how it impacts you is very different. And so, how do you show up to really listen and hear people so that you can meet them where they are, not think that a policy or a change that you make at the city will impact everybody the same? It just won't.
Yeah.
And so how do you take all of those voices with you into this work?
Well, let's talk about some of these different communities and some of the different issues affecting people. I know you've mentioned before that in the first 100 days of your mayorship, that what you really want to focus on is building and strengthening partnerships that will help revitalize downtown, which is obviously a huge issue in St. Paul right now. So how do you plan on doing that?
Yeah, I thought that would happen in my 100 days, but it's already started happening. I mean, yesterday I met, with the Japanese consulate and talking about the businesses that could come to, the state of Minnesota. And specifically, I said I wanted in my city, right? And so I started meeting with different developers. I started talking to different stakeholders who have a piece about what happens in downtown, whether it's public safety or, because you can't just build housing and people will just show up. You have to create the whole ecosystem that allows it to be healthy. And talking to residents who already live there now to say, what do you want to see down here? And so, the work already started, and we've been in it 2 weeks. I've already met with half of the council members, the majority of the council members. I have the last 3 scheduled for next week. Building these relationships and saying, what do you want to see happen in your wards matters to me. And so we've already started doing all of this work, and we haven't even been sworn into office yet. But so I thought these are things I would start in January, but we've started it already.
Yeah, and speaking of the city council, of course, it's all women on the council. Now you will be a woman in the mayor's role as well. What impact, if any, do you think that has on the way that, the city operates?
I think that anytime we have voices at the table that haven't traditionally been there, we get new perspectives, which I think is really wonderful, and I welcome that. But I also caution people in thinking that because we're all women, that somehow we're not going to have different ways of thinking or processing or bringing solutions to the table, and there will inherently be some tension in that, but that tension is good tension. And, we don't expect, when it's an all-men council with a male mayor, that everything's going to go really well all the time. And so I hope that people don't put different expectations on an all-women council and a women mayor, because we will very much so, we all have strong opinions, and we may at times not agree, and I hope people give us the grace to allow us to do that.
Affordable housing is, of course, another huge issue for people in St. Paul as well. What's your approach to that, and how will it differ from, current Mayor Melvin Carter's approach?
Yeah, we just have to build more of it. And there's a tension here, right? Because affordable housing doesn't always add to the tax base, but we need to build more of it. And so how do we make sure that we build a combination of affordable, deeply affordable, and market rate housing so that we can address the issues of property tax and growing our base, but also ensuring that our residents who have the greatest needs have units that they can afford. And so I actually met with a group of developers just this past week to talk about the different types of units we can build and how many. And right now our plan is to say, what is a doable number that we should shoot for in building? And so there's a lot of planning right now.
And I know that you've mentioned before the Urban Wealth Fund is something that you are a huge
Yes.
supporter of. For our viewers, just explain how that would work and how it would help you with the
Yeah.
finances of the city.
Yeah, so, and I just want to make sure the viewers understand that like, an urban wealth fund is not a new idea. I mean,
Right.
they've been using this tool across Europe and Asia for, for a long time. And we've actually piloted in a couple of cities in the United States here. And so, we started having preliminary conversations. I have, throughout this whole election process, but, sitting down and working with the individuals who've been providing me with the details around how to structure it. And an urban wealth fund, what it does is it leverages your current assets that are already owned by the city, and then being able to take those assets and generate revenues without selling those off. Most oftentimes cities, when they have properties, they sell it to generate some money to use for something. But once you sell that asset, you can't put it to work to generate revenues for you. So whether it is the commercial properties in which we build housing and we build commercial on it, or the 1,600 properties of residential that are vacant right now, that we put those assets to use and start creating property tax use for them, right? So it's really just creating that tool, and how we structure it is yet to come, because the investment company will work with me on doing that.
Right, and not a new concept, but definitely a different approach than the current administration.
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right, thank you very much for being here. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.